I know. Oh, no, I did.
Thank you, Dr. Phil.
Yeah, that chance.
Good, how you doing?
Excellent, I love that. 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. We have a full house. First order of business is to accept the minutes of the June 7th meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great job, Carrie.
Thank you.
All right, first thing is ferry service update. Do you have any update beyond the items in the old business?
No, well, nothing, I don't think I've already, I did check with Holly about how the weekend situation is going, and so far so good, knock on wood. And other than that. Everything's under control.
I guess I should ask Fred, I know that you had a schedule of a meeting. Is it helpful for you if we take the meeting out of order in order to do your thing? Cause I know you've got another
Sure.
meeting to go to.
Sure, I'm actually all set now, I'm not gonna be going to the meeting.
Okay,
We're good for the
okay.
Yep, we can't do the meeting for a bunch of different reasons.
Okay, perfect. Then we will be expeditious with our.
We're in it to win it.
Perfect. Sea level rise update. We met last week, and have, I think, a pretty strong communications plan. There are gonna be a series of small, group meetings, that we're planning for this summer to start to, just understand kind of where people are now and understand their concerns and areas of excitement to help inform the plan at the Narrows going forward. Do you have anything you want to add, Lauren?
No, I think that pretty well covers. I mean, if any of your organizations would like us to come, it's a 5 minutes, 7 minute brief, sort of update. We did the same thing for the municipal building project, and it was good because we got a lot of input. Why are you asking? Why are you doing this? And how much is it going to cost? And all those kinds of questions. So it was a good exchange.
Next meeting is July 13th. And that's it for Sea Level Rise, unless there's any questions. All right, anything for the municipal building project?
Just briefly, they've started having what Mark Willett called team meetings, and they're the representative Mark representing the architects, Steve Blatt Architects, and we'll have somebody from Bennett, which is the HVAC and electrical and contractor, and we have somebody from Gartley and Dorsey who are going to do all the work having to do with clearing the planning board for the health center. And then Pete Anderson is in on this meeting. I sit in as well. And then we have the construction manager, the owner and the construction manager. So it's just a way to keep all of the projects moving forward and everybody informed. I think it's a really smart idea. I don't know if it's common practice or we get the benefit of this new guy, Mark, who's really doing a good job, but it seems to be moving along. The plan from the owner of the construction company, H.E. Callahan, thank you. And the construction manager is to start construction of the health center October 1 and end by the end of May. So end of May of 2024. So that's their plan. I just communicated with Gartley and Dorsey about the timeline. We're hoping to get information to the planning board by July 24th of this year. So things are moving along. I'm currently looking for housing for construction, workers. What they want to do, the plan is that starting October 1, they would bring onto the island a team that would stay on the island from, say, Monday morning until either end of day Thursday or end of day Friday, depending on what their schedule was. So they'd stay overnight on the island, and I've got, right now I've got 3 places that can house, each place can house 5 people, so we're up to 15, which is what the number is that they wanted. Now, we have to look at prices, we have to see, if that's all gonna pan out, but, so things are moving along. We just got a redesign of the health center, which I could pass around, but everybody at one time has seen it. We've decreased the total size of the health center. This is not new. We have passed this around before, but, the function hasn't changed. They call it a program in architecture language, but none of that's changed. They just decreased the size, reducing, one of the hallways, eliminating one of the hallways, but still having all the same access, and making the overnight stay apartment smaller, and the workroom for the employees a little bit smaller. So it was I think it's all a good decision. I can pass this around. You want to look at it quickly, and then we'll pass it around to everybody else. So I guess that's my update for now. I think everything's moving along pretty well.
How are we gonna distinguish between which Pete Anderson we're talking about?
Little
Are
Pete,
you
big
also
Pete.
Andrew? No?
My birth
We could always say-
certificate says Peter.
We could always go Pete Andrew Anderson.
Or just call him Andrew, he won't know who you're talking about. No, that's fine, call him Andrew. I call him Peter,
Oh, okay, that works.
but people call Pete Peter, so never mind. Oh,
Do you have a preference?
you don't wanna hear.
No,
about
not
Pete,
particularly.
but his name.
It's easier for everybody else.
I figured you just perk up when you said Pete Anderson.
Ready?
Whatever, whatever word.
So how's it settled?
Oh, was it settled?
I don't know. That's why I'm
You
asking.
can call me
Peter?
Peter.
Peter,
And
okay,
Pete.
Andrew.
No, is that okay?
Totally fine.
We call
I'm
Pete.
not thinking.
You, not you.
You're gonna be Mr. Anderson.
That's a new one. I've heard that one.
Perfect.
Any questions on municipal building project? Great. Upcoming meetings and subcommittee reports, planning board, June 26th. Anything else? Town managers report.
Right, I've given you the agenda for tonight, which I did modify this afternoon after Ken Smith spoke to me about not seeing on the agenda about the museum committee, which I guess I thought that you were gonna come and talk about it, and I didn't hear back from you, so that's why I didn't put it on. That's my excuse right now. And the minutes from the last meeting, under correspondence, you've all received a letter of resignation from Carol Nichter, which we can talk about now or when we get the correspondence, but she's gonna be resigning from the cemetery committee, which is gonna be a huge blow. She's been the main force on that committee for many years and very interested and very caring about the cemeteries and getting things repaired. So, I mean, they're gonna be leaving town, so that's why she effective June 3rd, but she says she still will be available to the committee moving forward, and she said it's gonna be a big loss to everybody.
should we extend a letter of appreciation to her?
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
a
great
great
idea.
idea.
Yep.
Of course, we should.
Huh? You know something I don't know?
Oh, I get it now. I'm not sleeping yet with the 2.5-year-old, so I get it. Oh, under old business, recommend name for the new ferry. I didn't give you again the last copy that we had of the names from town meeting and pretty much self-evident, I think, but, so anyway. New,
John covered it, he did, that's the number of votes.
oh, yeah,
I have a copy of it.
oh, there, good.
Want to pass it around?
I don't want to see. I
Well,
know the result.
I can give you the results again. It was, 17 in favor of George Mitchell. 3 in favor of Donnie Shand, 2 in favor of Stanley Hinckley. And, 1 each for Margaret J. Smith, Charles Dana Gibson, Olympia Snow, Janet Mills, the Penobscot, and Deerville. So it was pretty much kind of a landslide, even though I don't think anyone was waiting 2 hours to vote.
Under new business, you've got a copy of Fred's, the 2023 Emergency Medical Service Mutual Aid Agreement. And under other about the museum, you have the Housing Committee minutes from April 18th. The Energy Committee from May 9th, and Lighthouse Restoration Committee from June 8th. And warrant number 26, and I think that's all that I've given you. I hope everybody's.
Question for Janet? On to recommending the name for the new ferry. Does anyone have a motion?
I make a motion to name the George Mitchell Ferry. Right, just make a suggestion. I'm sorry? Should probably best firm a recommendation to the.
Oh, right,
Department
sorry,
of Transportation.
recommendations.
We don't get to name the vote.
It's a recommendation that we support that as the name for the ferry. What's the middle initial? Did we get involved with that?
I think it's I can check.
So will I be typing up an official? Or will John just take back information to them?
Good question, I don't know.
What's most helpful for you, John?
I can just do it orally, I think. I don't think we, if it goes in the, in the minutes, it should be fine. I would think. It's J, it's George John Mitchell.
Okay,
So,
George J. Mitchell would be the suggested name for the
okay.
ferry.
I will let the new director know and ask that it be put on.
You gotta get a second, then you
Oh, I-
gotta vote on it.
Well, no, assuming it passes. Also for, Peter's edification, he should know it's not completely without some controversy. We did have someone object to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's aware of that, but
Can't make everyone happy.
no, you can't, not in this day and age. But anyway, so if this passes, what I would do is, go to the next advisory board meeting and ask that it be put on the agenda. Assuming the advisory board agrees, and they generally defer to, the island that is receiving the new vessel. Then the recommendation would be forwarded to, Bruce Van Note in Augusta. And we'd be advised whether or not he approves or not. I think he, most likely he would, but anyway.
Goes over, down.
Up, down, sideways.
Does anyone have a second?
Second,
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Got to say it as well.
Well, I'll pass it along, and as soon as I hear back, I'll let everybody know. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. All right, the emergency medical services mutual aid agreement.
That, the last one we signed was 4 or 5 years ago. There's a lot of changes going on in the county EMS world right now, which some are positive and some are adjustments because of staffing issues. So this year, we took the mutual aid agreement at our county chiefs meeting and started trying to make it work. Last year, Maine EMS required us under rules and regulation to have a mutual aid agreement because calls were going unanswered around the state. So we took our county mutual aid agreement and used that as the document that we have to submit to the state every year. So, at the two chiefs meetings ago, I recommended that we redefine a couple of things in there to better fit our need of needing a mutual aid agreement for the state. So we just did some, adjustments in there. One of them was the definition of what qualifies as an ALS provider in our mutual aid agreement. There's a couple of services that were in there before that are not there now. I believe Delta was in there and Northeast Ambulance, Northeast Mobile Health was in there. They're not in there now. You very well in a month would be re-signing this again because we're talking with Northeast to see what their situation is. There's a lot of it's unstable right now because of these staffing shortages. So that's kind of what brought about signing that agreement tonight. There's no big changes. There's nothing that the town has to be concerned about. It's just basically procedural stuff to make it fit what the state requires us, because this was the easy way to do it, because we do depend on each other. On another note, which is not part of this mutual aid agreement, our partners across the bay, Belfast and Stockton Springs, who are kind of the two real go-to services right now, have been doing all of the calls for mutual aid in the county, and it's starting to put them in a position where they have to put second or third crew on, which is costing them money. So like Northeast was doing with us, they're gonna start charging a mutual aid fee. That mutual aid fee is gonna be $850 just to come to Lincolnville. It ain't gonna affect Lincolnville Beach, because just the other day, I was talking with the fire chief of Belfast, and he told me Islesboro will not be getting one of those letters. So I think that we have a beautiful relationship with Belfast. They understand our situation. We're not like the other services. We don't have anybody next door to help us out, because it's just us over here, like I explained at town meeting. So Patrick Richards, his grandfather, who used to be the fire chief for about 50 years, Jim Richards. I've had a beautiful relationship with them, and Debbie Heath, the lead paramedic for them. And they said they're not gonna charge Islesboro with a mutual aid fee like Northeast has to. Because when Northeast comes down, they have to bring on another crew to cover Rockland, Camden, that whole Knox County area. So Belfast said right now, they're not even considering Islesboro. So I think that's a good gesture on the part of Belfast. And it makes you feel good about your neighbors around you, so. Patrick and Debbie are very committed to the county and how they serve. They've got to do these fees with these other towns. They might come to Lincolnville 5 times in a year for us. They're covering hundreds of runs for other towns that are having staffing issues. So this is gonna change the look of EMS. I mean, I think eventually we might even see the regionalization of EMS, which doesn't help us. So it really is in our best behalf to do what we can to preserve our services. And having Belfast help us out was a good thing. So there's nothing big in that mutual aid agreement. It's just procedural stuff, and that's it.
And this is the one that you approved, you helped write?
Yep, and just as soon as you folks sign it, I'm gonna submit it to the county. It has to be back by July 15th, I think it is. And we'll get it on, they have a copy of it over there. And it all started was because back in the mid 2000s, like 2008, something like that, we was all trying to figure out ways to help each other with we saw it coming then, all counties usually have mutual aid agreements. And it's kind of over the years built and built and built, so it's what you see today, so it is helpful and we use it when we call Belfast, so.
That's great. Does it make sense? I mean, it's, great that they are waiving the fee for us. You know, I wonder if, as we think about budget time next year, just, you know, understanding how much we have had to call on them and if it made sense for us to, you know, give a gesture of thanks in any way.
I think that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think that we're very fortunate to have a partner like Belfast. There's been many discussions with Belfast, especially when Jim was chief. And Jim has a lot of history through the years and he says, you know, he's an old school guy. We'll do what we have to do to help you out. And I like that attitude. That's the way we've always been. So it's a good thing. And yeah, I agree with you, Shay.
I think that even if for some reason we don't do the gesture of goodwill, but to start budgeting for it in case it does get to the point that we are relying on them a lot more. We need to build it into the budget, at least a couple of the runs for the extra in case it, you know,
And I
right
think
now
that-
it's working well, but if we can get that built up, knowing that at least then we'll have it, because 850 is, you know, 5 runs, and you're looking at.
And the only-
over $4,000.
And the only thing that I'm kind of guarded about is some of these other towns are gonna start being charged a mutual aid fee. So I don't really wanna say too much, other than I'm talking to you guys tonight, and the reason being is because I don't want other towns to think that we're. So it's kind of a delicate situation, you know what I mean, but, as I told the chiefs meeting, I said, if Alsbrook could come over, we'd back you guys up every time. Because we would help that, we've had firefighters standing on Josh's pier years ago, or on that beach. Trying to get to Northport, actually EMS people to rehab for Northport Fire. Cause they needed people to do firefighter rehab, and we was trying to find a boat that would take us over. To help them, because they've all, you know, found a way to help us. We delivered a baby a number of years ago. And we needed a lift assist because we took the cot over on the boat with us.
Well, that.
And when we had them page out the Lincolnville Fire Department to help us get the cot up off, this was like 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And we come off the Quicksilver with the cot and we looked up over the ramp and there was a chain of firefighters from Northport and Lincolnville. Cause they all wanted to be part of that, cause it was baby, you know, and we just chained the cot up over the ramp, but. Those are the type of relationships you try to preserve, and Lincolnville has always been a huge partner for Mert and his people. I mean, it's just, we're pretty fortunate to have those relationships.
Great. So does anyone want to make a motion to approve this, mutual aid agreement? Second,
Second. Peter second.
Peter, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you, Fred.
All right, I'm gonna go back and deal with parking at Grindle Point. Thank you.
All right, Grinder Point Light Station fundraising request. Ken, you're up.
Okay, well, the Lighthouse Committee would like to have your permission to have a fundraising campaign. You have a printout. We've broken it down into 5 different parts of the lighthouse. And it's pretty straightforward. For example, of tower. There was a submission for a grant through the King Foundation that was not successful. But the competition now for grants is very, very keen everywhere. But we have a grant in for the Belvedere grant. And that would take, is 18.5. That would take care of restoring the light, the light tower. So if you can just think of the lighthouse, the very top part, that's what we're talking about, restoring that inside and out, because it's been leaking over the years. So that would be a good deal. So that's 18.5, and that's the only grant that we applied for recently. We certainly would continue the, whatever we can get, we'll try to get it. So that's the restoration of the lighthouse really consists of 5 buildings. You've got the tower, you've got the annex, which is the tunnel between the keeper's house and tower. That is the original part of the old lighthouse. So that's the only part there that goes back many, many years ago. And that's the reason, at least what we're told, that you're on the National Register of Historic Buildings. There's nobody else quite like that. No, we'd like to have a commission, and we would not raise any more than what you see here at the bottom line. If we get a grant, we would ask for less money. So, any questions?
And you're wanting to do this as a fundraiser?
But
Are you wanting to do this as a fundraiser, or are you wanting the select board to try to raise the funds?
no, we're going to, we'd like to have people donate money to take care of it, not go through taxation.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So the town wouldn't be responsible for any of these figures, right?
But
The town wouldn't be responsible for any of these figures.
no, well, the town,
Costs.
recently, the town has been contributing some things that originally were not on the docket. Like, we got a new roof that just happened. And it was a great job. I mean, I'm so impressed with those people that did that. And then you put money up for fixing up the downstairs in the keeper's house. And it's a big deal, so.
But
so
no-
everything, from our point of view, would be fundraising.
okay.
Thank you.
And would you want to wait until the total amount was raised before you did the work, or would you consider kind of taking it as you raised funds, you know, kind of doing it project by project? How do you envision that sort of staging?
Well, we'd go with the fundraising idea, not knowing how much money will be available. And then we'll try to pick out the most critical pieces. For an example, underneath the Lanton House, there are some sills up there that are rotten. I think you all got a copy of the photograph showing a pole sticking through it. And that's not a big sum of money. In there, it's $2,500. We do that. The foundation of the keeper's house is one of our biggest concerns, because that every winter that keeps getting pushed in. So we would like to fix that. That's around $47,000. I don't know if that answers your question.
Now that's good.
Okay.
I would like to suggest that by next budget season, depending on how much they've raised, you know, that we do tackle 1 or 2 of these projects if fundraising is not
That's a great idea.
sufficient, but we should, because Dave Petzel got us kind of going, you know, asking for 50,000 a year, and they did as much as they could. So I think we should return to that also. If you don't raise enough to do The important things are.
Yeah, we certainly will come back to you if we're unsuccessful.
Oh, now I'm not putting a jinx on you or anything. I think you're gonna do very well.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a great, great cause. Thank you for doing it.
Would you like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the plan to do fundraising for restoration of Brendel Point Light Station.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next up is approving warrant number 26 for FY 23. So.
What?
Second,
You can stay after.
oh, second, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. You didn't even give me. You gotta be on, anyway.
I got talent.
We do have one appointment that we need to start.
I would say that it's fair.
It's, we, Sunday. Oh, wow. Instead of it's.
Grab a Hondo.
Good work.
It looks like Bruce Frank is willing to serve on the cemetery committee, take that opening.
How many people are on that committee?
I think I think they're still down 2 people.
So what's the total?
I think it's a 7. We're-
It's 7 and you need 2 more, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, it could be 5 or
it's 5.
7, yeah, 5. I think she has. Cause I know she's planning a meeting, they're going to be doing some, ordinance amendments to the cemetery ordinance. And so she'll be having a public hearing, and we were discussing how many people she had to make sure they have a quorum. Like Bill Boardman's on there, Cindy Gorham, Sharon McCullough, and now Bruce. I think Mert still is on there.
Are they responsible for mowing?
Our town cemeteries?
Yeah.
No, they're not, no, that's
Okay.
Public Works. This is more maintaining stones, and like Carol just got an estimate from Tom Fence to repair the chain link fence up at Bayview, which a limb fell on it in the winter, so.
They do a lot of the flags and memorials too.
Yeah, they do those to all cemeteries around Memorial Day and veterans, so. We buy a lot of flags, there's a lot of.
Do I have a motion?
So,
Second,
Second.
any further
He does
discussion?
the same thing that Gabe did. When she wants a second, she stares at me.
I like to make pretty.
We have deniability. We didn't say that.
we had that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Fine.
And thank you to Bruce for his willingness to serve.
Yeah, that's great.
I have no other comments tonight.
Only comment from me is it's much nicer to be with all of you than in post-op. Much, much better.
Are you being honest?
Yes, totally.
And you're being just as funny as you would.
You see the scar?
Not yet, not yet.
Oh, sorry.
It was.
It's supposed to be today.
And you're trying to rush through this meeting.
Oh, so what are we gonna do? Is there anything we can do?
Let me see. I could use a little more money.
Pete,
Thanks to the fire department and CMP for their quick response, to the tree that went down on Ruby James Road last week, or was it last week? It's impressively quick.
Was it on a Thursday or was it on a day that the CNP guy was ever here?
It must have been, I put a call in at 7:30 and they were there by 10.
Wow,
So they must have either been ready to go or you're already.
nice.
Bill?
Okay.
Nothing.
All
That
right,
was your opportunity.
I know.
in that
Just
case.
filibuster, and stretch this out.
Motion to
Well, now
adjourn.
that you mention,
Too late.
Second, aye. Who seconded?
I'll second.
Have a good night, everybody.
just remember, you're going under tonight.
Yes, Donnie called me.
How can
Yeah,
I
he
forget?
called me right when he got on with you, and so. Because I don't, it looked like